Hello, 3F warfighters. Every 2 years, panels consisting of 4 3F chiefs and seniors, with action officers, meet at Buckley Space Force Base in Colorado to review records and generate feedback for enlisted members. In calendar year 24, the MyVector application to request feedback was open to tech sergeants and above. This review also results in 2 lists of names. The Key Personnel List, KPL, provides the names of members ready for key positions throughout AFRC. These key positions are determined by MAJCOM functional managers. The Ready for Development Opportunity List, RDO, provides the names of members ready for positions that can prepare 3F members for future key positions. Feedback results are published in MyVector, and the lists are published in MyFSS. I am Chief Master Sergeant Bianca Contreras, AFRC MAJCOM Functional Manager for the 3F5 Administration Career Field, and I sat with my coworkers, the 3F MAJCOM Functional Managers, to discuss key takeaways from our review and feedback to over 200 enlisted members within the 3F community during the CY24 3F DT Board held October 2024. Here's our table talk. So Chief Vargas, I'll start with you. What does career progression look like, not just for the Air Force, but the mindset you had about career progression? What is important for not just this board, but for people to consider for the next board?
Career progression in the Air Force is closely linked to an airman's duty history, which is reflected in their duty titles. These duty titles will give a snapshot of an airman's skills, responsibilities, and leadership experience over time, right? And so it's essential that airmen are developing technically and in their leadership roles to stay on track for their career growth.
Absolutely. So we looked at duty titles and potentially different levels. So squadron, group, which are now going to be A staff, and wing. And so that did take into account as far as a whole airman concept, right? Awesome. Okay. And so maybe looking at the different duty titles someone has on their record, does this look right? What can I work on? What should my next role be as far as the duty titles I have?
Yeah, so it's making sure that you're leading at each level, right? The sections, the flight, the squadrons, as you progress. There's more responsibility.
And you have that in services?
Yes.
Yes, at CSS we're everywhere, at 3FOs are everywhere in the CSS and MPF. You will have different levels as well to serve as a UTM for the 3F2 career field. So Senior Younger, over to you as far as the future of the Air Force. So where did you see what we saw on the records and where the Air Force is needed? What was your mindset and what could we share with everybody about that?
Yes, ma'am. So as we know, the future of the Air Force is evolving rapidly right now, specifically the way we're going to be deploying in the future. So looking through those records and looking for more than just the technical expertise, which is going to continue to be very important in our career field and every career field, but looking also for the different levels of leadership to piggyback off what Chief Vargas said, the duty titles, different levels of leadership, and just the breadth of experience to form these strong, good leaders that can be out there in the field and set up bare bases and develop and motivate teams as we go through this change.
Yeah, so bare bases for the 305 career field. We don't know if Postal is going to be a part of that. I've had several conversations about that and not many answers. So we're dealing with making decisions with answers we don't have at this time. So when we looked at these records, not only were we looking at awards, EPBs, but we had the future in mind. What experience do you currently have? And these key positions, KPL was geared towards key positions. Ready for Development Opportunity Lists were just showing like, hey, you're missing maybe one level of experience to be ready for a key position, given that we're sitting in key positions right now. So we have that insight. So Chief Milanofi, your career field is part of the future, but big changes as far as that goes. So again, with our mindset on the board, what stood out to you on the board as far as what people need to focus on? You're about to be the new A1 Chief Enlisted Manager, CEM. So what stood out to you?
Right. So going into the role of the CEM is that this position works with all the 3Fs, right? So that was one of the things that I was looking for in the DT board was how are you working with your other counterparts within the 3F career fields, right? Within the CSS, specifically at the group positions for are they working together as a team, and then at the base are they working together as a team within the FSS. I don't think, as we've talked about, I don't think it's lost on any of us that the Air Force of the future is going to look very different from what it does today. However, the things that we do still need to be done. The jobs are not going away, meaning the actual things, the tangible items, the action items, transactional data, or transactional tasks are not going away. So we want people to be able to fill those roles as we start moving into the DCW construct over the next 10 or 15 years. So the mission capable airman will mean that most of us is in the 3F2 career field will probably need to be able to perform some functions on the administrative side and the personnel side. That is not a concrete statement. I am not speaking for the Air Force. I just see that this is how it's probably going to go in the future, right? And I'm not against it because I think it's going to afford opportunities for everybody. So to remember that we were looking through this DT and the scope of A1 and what A1 community needs, right? There is an avenue for strategic positions, but that is Chief Nunez's board. That's not necessarily ours. So the feedback we provided was feedback based off of what we have seen the field need, and specifically out on our UEI.
Right.
So that's what I was focused on, right? Is what career path have you taken, and then can we apply that to other positions that we know are out there? SEL positions, group positions, positions here at the MAGCOM, but all under the scope of the A1 umbrella, right? We weren't necessarily thinking about filling positions outside in the strategic area. I say that, but I also know that we had people that were in those strategic positions right now, and they may have gotten feedback that said, hey, you need to return back to the A1 community, because that is a position that is a wealth of knowledge. You just got an education for 3 years. We need you to return back to the fold and spread that wealth of knowledge that you just learned, either at RE or the MAGCOM or maybe a RIO or something along those lines.
I think that's super important right now, because these DCWs and ABWs that are coming out, we need that strategic thinking out there. It's new to the Air Force, and we need thinkers, and we need people who can articulate and approach it properly, professionally and safely, because there are a lot of changes coming and we need to work together. So I agree with taking what we've learned here and applying it at these new wings that are being developed throughout the land.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think one other thing that really stood out that you spoke a lot about are the record review. So there's a misunderstanding potentially of what a record review entails. So can you tell us two things that stood out where we could see that a record review is maybe either not conducted or just conducted incorrectly?
One of the biggest things when it came to EPRs was missing EPRs, and even having not your EPRs in your record.
So somebody
else's EPRs in your record. And that did also apply to decorations. We had people that had, case in point, we had somebody that had Navy decorations. They were not their decorations.
So it wasn't even were in the Navy and it's in
it
there.
was not this person's decorations. So those are some of the things that we need to work through. And what I encourage everybody to do is a thorough record review with either your SEL or your command chief prior to these boards. I know one of our goals is to set up almost like a milestone of, hey, 6 months out you should do this, 18 months out you should do this, 3 weeks out you need to make sure you have something along those lines, and we're going to put specific action items in there to say, hey, make sure you have your EPRs. There is a block in the DT that says additional comments. If you need to tell the board something, tell us. If your EPB is stuck because your supervisor or the commander or whatever have you, for whatever reason that is not working its way through the system, please just let us know that, hey, you courted, and you're trying to fix those things. But and I will say also too, because we were trying to figure out the record so much, our window of opportunity to give pertinent, deliberate feedback to those members got very short. We only had about 10 to 15 minutes for each record. So if we spent 10 minutes on your record trying to figure out what your story is, it only gave us about 5 minutes to actually sit down and go, okay, now that we have figured this out. So unfortunately, that was just some of the pitfalls that we ran into with such a large amount of records and only having the 3 panels there.
I think having over 200 was a win, because that means more people, or a lot of people are asking for that feedback. So our goal is to have as many as we can. So that kind of leads me to a question for you, senior, younger. The comments from the endorsers. The endorsers were supervisors. This year was different because it had 1 level of endorsement, not 2. So the endorsements we received, what's your feedback on the endorsements? Like, what could supervisors or even members themselves, how can they work with what would you ask the members to work on with their supervisors for their endorsement in 2026?
First of all, just to make sure that there is an endorsement there of some sort, more than just this is a great airman. Put some deliberate thought into your endorsement, because the board is reading those comments and that's important. And then as the member, just double check and make sure something's there. And if you are an endorser, do your airmen the favor and spend some time on that and put quality feedback and thought into it, because the record is important and that's all we have to go off is the record.
Absolutely. Chief Vargas, to that from any other aspect?
Oh yeah, so the records, I think a lot of the things that we saw on my panel were primary and control AFSCs not being updated, right? So that's another part of the records review. Us in A1, we own that process. So we need to make sure that our records are correct, right? And then just for the services career field, just having that breadth of experience and the deployment opportunities. Those were big takeaways for me. When I'm looking at key bullets for the services career field, I want somebody that has that experience.
Yes, and you have plenty of those opportunities in your AFSC, not so much mine. So no, that definitely makes sense. Okay, so Chief Milanofi, on the 3F2 side, what would you want the people in your career field to know about this board, but more so what to work on?
The thing to think about is if they are doing good things out there. So for example, we did notice that a lot of people have participated in Greenbelt, but they didn't elaborate on what they did. So you could be a unit training manager with your Greenbelt certification or Black Belt certification, but that's all they said was, hey, I have my green belt, or, there was no follow through with it. So what I encourage everybody is write these goals as if you're having a face-to-face conversation with us, right? And that's exactly how this should be. It should be a face-to-face. It shouldn't just be, I have my green belt, I did this, I did that. It really should go back to the action impact result, so that we know that we can kind of open up the aperture of the things that you're getting after. Long-term goals, one of the things that we noticed was, and I don't know how to put this any other way, of a lot of people had goals of retiring, which is great. We all have goals of retiring, but what are, as we see that, thinking from the DT board and from the A1 community is, how do we vector you and give you advice if your goal is to retire? And I'm not saying that to be derogatory in any nature. It's just, is there something that we can do to set you up for goals that you have after retirement, right? Is there something that you want to do? Do you want to help with a nonprofit? Do you want to, is there anything out there that we can help you with, in that transition?
So for your career field, you have a lot of civilian positions. UTM civilians.
Correct.
So
right.
For your 3F2 community for FY26, if they are close to retirement, an idea would be, you're interested in.
Can we help you with write your resume? Do you want, it could be as small as that, right? How do you transition from, being a TR 3F2 to, if you want to come on board and be a straight civilian? How do you transition to to just civilian life?
So it can be, my goal is to become the civilian UTM at this organization. And then, so they can state that goal, and then your feedback could allude to that goal for them during the next CT.
Right. So I'll use a prime example. My goal after I retire is to work with either state level or even federal level legislation for military members and suffering from PTSD and TBIs utilizing nature, right? That's a very short version of putting it. But I know there's things I can help if somebody put that into their goal, I can vector them. I can, point them in the right direction of, hey, we can get you down to Congress. We have contacts down there. We have the fellowship program. That might be something that you're interested, so you can make those contacts down there. Now, I just use that as a very vague goal, just an example that there are still things that we can help you. If your goal is to retire, we can still take that 3 to 5 year range to help us help you.
Absolutely. Senior Younger, for the 3FO community, you have the highest number of authorized positions in your career field compared to all of us. So what would you want your community to work on for the FY26, the CY26 board?
So for the next board, so it's about 2 years out, so there is opportunity there to make improvements. One of the things I saw a lot of is people getting in positions and just staying there, like staying in the CSS and never getting any of the MPF experience, or vice versa, only MPF and no CSS experience, or only higher headquarters or higher experience, above wing experience, and no wing or unit experience. So there has to be a good mix there to have the full breadth of experience, especially if you're looking for the KPL positions. It's really important to have a mix of all levels.
Okay, so work on the experience, the levels that they've been on.
Yes, ma'am. And then
For those
also too,
opportunities.
and back to the duty titles, there may be people that have been in different sections of the MPF, but your duty history just isn't correct. I know I've had to go back through mine before because I was missing that one step. I was the MPF superintendent, but it wasn't in my record, so it looked like I went straight from chief of, it was relocations at the time, to FSS superintendent. So I had to go back and have that corrected to show that level of progression.
And officers are really good at using their duty title history because that definitely affects their promotion in the future. So maybe if we look at our duty history with that perspective.
And then just developing, going back to how we're changing and how we deploy and all that, just developing some operational resilience. So anything people can do to get that leadership and team building type of training going on to make sure that when we are deploying that we can not just create strong teams but continue to motivate them along the way as well.
And there are current opportunities because a lot of wings have to do exercises right now in accordance with the AFRC task order. So there are opportunities that are developing as we speak.
Yes, and I think for the 3FOs, at least I can speak for, that's going to be a big change for us because the opportunities for us, depending where you are, can be minimal unless you seek them out.
I've had to create opportunities for myself my entire career, so just continue doing that. Okay, Chief Vargas, 3F1 community, what should they be focusing on for the FY26 board?
CY26, yes. So back to the experience level and all the sections, right, and services. I don't want them to get siloed in a food section, to have that breadth of experience, food, fitness, readiness, do it all. That's going to make them the better leader when in the career field, and that's what we need. The highest grade in the DCW is going to be a senior master sergeant 3F1, and that person's going to have to lead the whole A1 community because that's going to be the highest ranking across the A1 portfolio. So that person's going to have the force support capabilities under control and know a little bit of everything about all the communities.
Yes, I remember being active duty as a senior airman and a lot of responsibilities expected of me. So I think we're potentially getting back to having higher expectations of the ranks within the ranks and not just at the top. So I personally look forward to that because there are so many capabilities that our TRs have. We're just not able to utilize it on a UTA weekend, sometimes even as an AGR. So I look forward to some of those changes coming. Okay, so the last thing I want to point out is you mentioned this during the board, this out of cycle board that we're going to have in CY25. So the idea is, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone who is on the Ready for Developmental Opportunity list, we will do a call out next year with the current MFMs at the time, and you being the CEM, to offer an out of cycle board where we take a look at their records once more and potentially move them from RDO to KPL. But I think it's, personally, I think it's important that a member knows what the KPL and the RDO gets for them. So right now, KPL are directly linked to people interested into key positions. RDO is going to provide the name to hiring officials for positions that we need someone who can hit the ground running, but not necessarily either ready or interested in key positions. So our after action report that will go out will list the key positions for everyone to see what they are. But key positions aren't going to stay what they are today. They are fluid, are they not?
Yes, ma'am. Everything is fluid.
Everything is fluid.
Everything is fluid. So the expectation, at least while I'm here in the CEMC, is that this is not a once and done, see you 2 years later process. This is a living process where people can be reevaluated or have an opportunity for us to really just open up the books again to see if anything was conducted where, hey, maybe they went on and got that PME that we suggested them. Maybe they went on and did some green belt courses that, so it's really for them, it's for an opportunity to say, hey, got your feedback, took it, applied it. I'd love you to reconsider my position. I'm interested in the KPL because I want to move on to a MAGCOM position, or I want to move on to an RE position.
And I think one of the questions for the out of cycle board should be, which key position are you interested in, so that we can help people understand the KPL, the key position, and how to help them be ready for that. Or give them a connection to someone potentially already in the seat or who has had that experience already. So help them network.
The last thing I wanted to say was, and I may be repeating this, don't think that you can't contact any one of us prior to have that face-to-face conversation, and we will help you scale down the narrative to make sure that you get your ideas across, so that the board, so there's no mistaking what your intentions are for the future. And the other thing is back to what is the point of the DT? The DT is to identify members that will be assets to the A1 community, that want to be a part of the A1 community, but that also means that they are open, willing, and able to fit the needs of the Air Force. So just remember, we can show you the mountain, but we can't bring the mountain to you. And so if there's certain things that we need to be made aware of, like you cannot be, you're already a government employee and you're not looking for a full-time status. If you're just looking for TR status, those are some of the questions that we're going to try to narrow down on the next DT to make sure that we know by status, if you're a TR, and we know there's a position out there and you're willing to travel, hey, we're going to vector you to that position. Chief Nunez is doing that within his sphere of DTs, is that he's doing pertinent vectors. But we're going to try to do that going forward, is that we're actually telling people, hey, there's a position in Florida that fits exactly what you want.
In my opinion, the most important thing anyone can get out of this is the feedback. So you get documented feedback, you can contact us ahead of time, and like he said, scale down, make your point, air, action, impact, result, and get your point across efficiently for a board that doesn't have much time to review your record. However, the feedback is the real gold. That is one of the most important parts of this process, is being able to give you documented feedback. You now have a path on what to do next until the Air Force continues to change. So once you've met a certain goal, don't think that that's the end. That's actually the beginning of the next path that you potentially want or that the Air Force needs from us. So thanks for joining us. We hope this was helpful. And again, reach out to us. We will be reaching out to everyone that we can to have a one-on-one about the feedback. If you haven't heard from us and want a one-on-one, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to make time on our calendar to do so. So thank you for joining us.